Now, given you've made effort to come along here tonight, I have a question for you. And the question goes something like this. Have you ever at any stage in your life had a period of it got a little bit boring and tedious, and you wanted to go looking for a bit of adventure in this speak? I find when I ask the question to people, most will say, you know, just now and again I've got that feeling. Well, I'll tell you, if you would like to find out how to do it, you've come to the right place tonight, because you're going to hear from the most amazing lady who had the guts to do it. Because a lot of people will talk about doing something, and yet they don't get off their butt and do something about it. And this amazing lady has. So you're going to hear this story sometime soon, probably within the next 2 minutes. So here's the scene for tonight. In a minute I'll introduce Tove to you. Tove gets a stage for 31 minutes. Oh, didn't I tell you? We've negotiated on this, but anyway, it'll be about 30 minutes. At the end of that time, any questions you'd like to ask? Because I'm telling you now, as you hear this, you're going to start thinking, how can I do some variation on that one? And you'll have all these questions you'd like to ask. So a question and answer with Tove, and then just a couple of bits to wrap up. I'll explain about these 2 amazing books that she's put together, and then you can line up to grab them. I've read both, and I'm telling you now, I'm time poor just like everyone else. But I started on it and I couldn't stop. They are just the most beautiful stories. They seriously are. Just magic. So let me see, what else do I have? All the obvious things, like if your phone goes off, you pay $100 to make a wish foundation. Will you tell me about that? And then Tove has a charity that she donates money to in China, so in Tibet, so that's another $100. I'm sure you'll all be happy about that one. What else do I have on this list here? Those decorations, all those amazing decorations up there. Now, they came in from China, and Tove was not able to put clothes into her bag because she put them all in, so you're not able to take them. Okay? They're also needed for a whole lot of other things, so they're just there to create this wonderful atmosphere here. You are totally fine with taking a story that is in colour on your seat there, so help yourself to that one. That's completely yours. You can take away all the energy you like, you can take all the stories away, and you can take especially these 2 books. These 2 books. Talk about magic. Just the most beautiful stories. And given I visited this lady in China, I realised what she meant by calling it, this is China. You'll get it. The most amazing country in itself. What else have I got? I'll take all the photos and videos you like. We're going to ask you to post them to Facebook. Try and remember later on to explain exactly where to put them. And just to let you know, as we're wrapping up at the end, Tom over there, who's a master video person, will be taking 10-second videos of people in the room here. So here's the scene. As you're walking out, we're going to do little snapshot videos of you. Can you start thinking about some amazing, intelligent thing you can say as you get video? You don't even have to give you some quick comment about, you know, what you just heard on the night, or what you think of this lady, or something like that. And in fact, we won't put you on the spot with it, just if you'd like to. Okay. Anything else just to get started here? No, that'll do for the moment. I've known this lady for 40 years. This blows me away. I didn't think I was 40, so I'm really confused with this one. 10 years ago, at the age of 57, she started this journey. Now, I reckon Tove has worked out the whole secret in terms of staying young forever. And in all seriousness, okay, to embarrass a lady and say her age is, you know, obviously not all accepted. We might need some more batteries here as well. At the age of 67, to me she looks 47, if that, acts like she's 27. She's absolutely got the energy of a 27-year-old. Ladies and gentlemen, you are going to hear the most beautiful story. Can I please introduce to you Tove Vine?
Thank you. Excuse me, but I just have to get used to using this microphone, so I just have to work out where to put it. Thank you, Tony, for all those wonderful words. Yes, I've known Tony for 40 years. I'll tell you that story a little later. Let me just get this. Tony has just taught me how to use this. I think I can manage it. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I am honored. I am humbled to see so many people here. When I organized the launch, I thought, I'll be lucky if 10 people turns up. But there's a lot more than 10 people in here tonight. And I am truly, truly honored. Yes, I have a story, and I hope you enjoy the story. And look at the room, isn't it beautiful? Yeah, it's true. I filled 2 suitcases with the decorations. No place for my clothes. So I had to stuff my clothes in my backpack, which I took onto the plane. And true story. Yes, I'm really happy with those. And tomorrow is Chinese New Year. So, any Chinese people in here? Xing Nian Kuai Le, Gong Xi Fa Tai. Yes, yes. So that is tomorrow. See these little red envelopes here? They are lucky envelopes. Yeah? Chinese children will get them, and with money inside, you know, for the next 2 weeks. Adults will have to give the children money, but the money is given directly to the parents, and it goes into the bank, and it's used for the children's education. They are not allowed to keep any of the money, so my students tell me. Okay, let me see if I can remember my speech. I've tried to memorize my speech. What I want to do... Hey! So it comes out every now... Oh, well that's interesting. Yes. The other thing that I just wanted to point out is this beautiful banner. I'm really excited about that, because all my life I have lived, all my adult life, 5 foot nothing. And that has been a handicap my whole life. And I married a very tall man because I wanted a tall daughter. I wanted tall children. So I'm really excited about that person. This is what I would look like if I was tall and slim. Now, if I was blue, I would look like one of those avatar people. So, yeah, that's, yeah, I love that. That's really great. What I would like to do, just very quickly, the remote control, I would like to share with you where I come from, because I have a rather unusual journey. It is different. Because I was born into a very large family, number 11 in a family of 13, in Denmark. We lived in a little village in a farming community. And in Denmark, it was very unusual to have so many children. In a Catholic country, yes, they have a lot of children, but in Denmark it was quite unusual. My parents were just hardworking peasants, and it was often very difficult for them to provide for the family. And you can imagine 13 children. My mother had 13 children. I had 1. After 1 child, I thought, my mother did this 13 times? Oh my God! Once is enough, thank you. So I had a newfound respect for my mother after I had my first child. Because we were so poor, my father ruled the family with an iron fist. And his children was really all he had to be proud of. So he wanted us to be perfectly behaved all the time. And sadly, my father didn't read any child psychology books. He was constantly telling us children, hey, sorry. He was constantly telling us children that we are poor, you are worthless. When we were going to a festival in the village, like a harvest festival or a Christmas festival, he would line us up in a row, and he would tell us, when we get there, don't talk to anybody, don't look at anybody, just go and stand in the corner. You are poor, you are the least important person in the room. And that was very difficult, because I believed my father, because when you're a child, you believe your father. So I grew up thinking that that was true. But I have to tell you tonight, I know it's not true. And this, you can see, these are pictures of my family, all in a row, and we lived in a tiny little cottage, 2-bedroom cottage. One bedroom would not have been any bigger than this stage, and I have no idea where the 13 children slept. But I was told when I was a baby, I slept in a drawer. My mother would just pull out the drawer and put me in the drawer. So I guess this is why I'm so short, because I had no room to grow. And as I was growing up, I shared a single bed with my sister, one of my sisters who is 1 year older than me. And that was a challenge because there wasn't a lot of room. And we were constantly having fights because we both had long hair down to here, and we loved throwing our hair in the face of the not working. The happiest day of my life was when my sister, 1 year older than me, left home with 14, I was 13, and at that stage I got the bed all to myself. It was just wonderful. So tonight, I would like to acknowledge a few people that have helped me get on this stage tonight, because I did not do it by myself, not by any stretch of the imagination. I left school before my 15th birthday. I have no formal education. English is my second language, so I need a lot of help. I would like to first acknowledge my parents. They gave me life, and they taught me to work hard. And I realized as I became an adult how difficult it must have been for them to bring up a family of 13 on a very low income. I respect my parents because they did the best they could, knowing what they knew coming from where they came. So I have nothing but respect for my parents. I would like to thank my husband, Gordon, for asking me to come to Australia 45 years ago to marry him. We had met 3 years earlier in Jersey, in the Channel Islands. I was a nanny in London for a wealthy family, and we had gone on holiday to Jersey. And he was a lifesaver at the swimming pool at the 5-star hotel where we were staying. So I had to take the children to the swimming pool. And I was young, and I was looking, and the first thing I saw when I got to the swimming pool was this drop-dead gorgeous guy. 6 foot tall, bronze, and snow white hair from living in the sun, and with a body like a god. And I thought, oh my God. He looked at me, petite, 5 foot nothing, long auburn hair and white skin, and wearing a very tiny bikini. And he thought, oh my God. So that's the story of the lifesaver. And then a few years later, a beautiful little girl entered my life. She came 12 weeks premature, so the first few days it was touch and go, but she decided to stay. And she has been the wind beneath my wings. Elizabeth is a constant source of encouragement, help and support. And without her, I am sure I would be nothing. Many of you in this room know my daughter, she's sitting over there, and she is the best daughter anyone could wish for. In 1975, a tall, handsome squash player. He was at that time the Queensland champion junior squash player, something like that. He was very, very good at playing squash. He came into my life in Townsville my husband and I had a sports center, so we invited him to live with us, and I became his second mom. Today, 40 years later, he is past president of the Australia National Speakers Association. He is a philanthropist. He is an educator. He's the author of many books, one of them, The Ripple Effect. And I am so proud to call Tony Ryan my friend. He is an awesome guy. He is a constant source of knowledge and information for him. He helps me with so many difficult issues that I have in regard to practicing my book. And he is always in my corner. And as I said, he is an awesome guy. A lot of you people here tonight know him, and I could not touch his shoelaces, even if I stood on my tiptoes. So thank you, Tony, for being in my corner. The 18th of April 2003, I was having coffee with a friend at Aroma's coffee shop in the Queen Street Mall. And I was sharing with her my uninteresting life. In fact, I was complaining. And she listened patiently, and then she said 9 words that would change my life forever. She said, "Why don't you go to China to teach English?" Bang. 4 months later, I was in China teaching English. I had studied for my TIC certificate. I had sold most of my belongings, put on a backpack, and I was in China ready to teach English. It happened that quickly. Thank you, Mass, for the 9 words. If I haven't thanked you before, please let me thank you now. I have a lovely friend called Maria, and Maria has been one of my biggest fans over the last 10 years. She has always been so interested in my life in China, all my adventures, and always encouraged me to write a book. She said, "You must write a book, you must write a book." Thank you, Maria. And Maria is also the creator of this beautiful PowerPoint presentation you are watching. And beautiful friend that I have is Jenny, and I know a lot of you people in here knows Jenny. And Jenny, again, has been a wonderful support to me, and I just loved it every time I came back to Brisbane, and I would always meet up with Jenny. And she would give me that wonderful hug, and that hug just tells you that no matter what happens in your life, what's going on in your life, that everything will be okay. So thank you, Jenny, for always being there for me. I appreciate you more than you know. The first few months of putting this book together was not easy for me because, as I said, I left school before my 15th birthday. I have no formal education, and English is my second language, but I was very lucky that I found an editor that had the patience of a saint. Maureen Bella was just so patient and so understanding, but I'm sure the first few weeks she would be pulling her hair out, trying to deal with me living in Guangzhou and her living in Brisbane. So everything happened by email and by Dropbox. But Maureen is here tonight, and I see that she's still got a beautiful set of hair, so perhaps it wasn't so bad. But thank you, Maureen, for your patience. I appreciate it. Last but not least, I want to acknowledge my book coach, Gertrude, who lives in New Zealand. And over the last 4 months, we have put 3 books together. Her in New Zealand and me living in Guangzhou, so everything happened by email, Skype, and it has worked out really well. She was supposed to be here tonight, but unfortunately she missed the flight. So sorry, she can't be here. But Without Gertrude, I would not be on this stage tonight. She has been absolutely awesome. So, why write a book? Why write a book about your life in China? Well, 10.5 years ago, I read a book which inspired me. And that was actually lent to me by, again, my friend Matt. She lent me a book called Tales of a Nomad. And that book really inspired me. It was about a woman, American woman, who in her late 40s divorced and then started to travel. And it inspired me to do something about my long lost dream. When I was young, I wanted to travel. That was all I wanted to do. So that book and the 9 words from Math was actually what changed my life. Books are wonderful because when you, it becomes part of you, and it can inspire you, it can encourage you, and it can just move you into a different world. So I love books, and I'm so glad to say that my daughter is also a bookworm. She reads books all the time. My life in China is just absolutely awesome. It really is fantastic. Every day I walk out of my apartment, it's an adventure. Going shopping is an adventure. I walk down the street with a smile on my face, and obviously that attracts people to me because they're probably wondering why I'm smiling. But because I live in Guangzhou, and there are not many foreigners in Guangzhou. Well, not where I live. I live in the middle of the city, but even though I seldom see another foreigner. I think they must hide away somewhere in an expat community or somewhere, but I'm always the only person on the subway or on the buses or on the streets. So I attract a lot of attention because of my coloring. And when I walk down the street, because I love children, and the Chinese children are just so gorgeous, and I always stop and talk to the children. And I am rewarded by lots of smiles from parents or grandparents. This is not very good. I'm sorry. And also my life in China has allowed me to make many trips. Like this trip coming back to Brisbane was my 100th trip in 10 years. So I travel a lot. As soon as I have a holiday, I close my schools, put on a backpack, and I travel. Usually by myself. I travel all over China, Asia, the Middle East. In the long holidays, I would often travel two or three times. So I have a lot more books on the drawing board, and those books are about the fantastic trips that I have made. I've been to the top of the world twice. It's just awesome. I really love my life. When you, there's Tony and I, we are eating goose feet. Do you remember that, Tony? Goose feet. Well, actually, we didn't eat them. We pretended to eat them because I couldn't eat them. Some of the food in China, you know, Brandon, some of the food you can't eat. Like pig's intestines, chicken feet, goose neck. But anyway, some food is good. The first year I was in China, I worked for an English training school, but the second year I set up my own private English school because my background is in business and also accounting. I just observed what I saw this first year, and I thought, I don't need to work for anybody. I can set up my own school. And now, 11 years later, I have 9 English schools in the city of Guangzhou, which keeps me very, very busy. I've taught all levels, kindergarten, primary school, middle school, high school, college, university, business executives, wealthy wives, and I have even taught the Bible secretly, because you are not supposed to teach the Bible in English. So that was a very secret. But my passion is to teach children. I love children. I love teaching kindergarten and primary school, and especially grade 2. I just love them. Chinese children are just so gorgeous. Oh. Kindergarten is a lot of fun, and I'll tell you one funny story from the kindergarten class. When I finish the kindergarten class, I get the students to line up so they can walk nicely up the wall. Chinese children are very competitive, and they all want to be number 1. So when I say line up, then they come rushing towards me, and they would grab hold of my slacks to secure the number 1 position. And that's okay, but one day the competition was so fierce. So they grabbed hold of my slacks, but in doing so, they were fighting for the number 1 position, and they fell over. But they didn't let go of my slacks, so they pulled my slacks down. So there I was standing in the classroom with my slacks around my ankles, 10 little children laughing on the floor, thinking that was very funny. And I remember my dear mother telling me when I was a little girl, always wear clean underpants. Because you never know when you might have an accident and need to go to hospital. So I was standing there at the classroom thinking about my mother, and I thought she could never have imagined that one day a youngest daughter would stand in a Chinese classroom being grateful for her advice. So, those children are just so gorgeous. Grade 1 and grade 2 are just gorgeous too, and they learn so quickly, and that's what's so rewarding. And with those little students, grade 1 and 2, there are lots of the sounds in the English language which they just cannot get their mouths around, like the TH sound, the, and the B sound, B, like in living room, and river, it comes out like living room, and river. And I can relate to this because learning English as a second language myself, those sounds are also difficult for a Dane, so they have to be practiced over and over again. But what is so funny for the grade 1 and grade 2 students is that usually they're missing their 2 front teeth. You know, they miss their front teeth. So getting them to sit there and practice the is so funny. I take many pictures of, close-up pictures of their mouths, you know, and the B sound. So when they say re-ba, I say no, look at my mouth, re-ba, okay. And they try really, really hard, and they say re-ba. So I said, okay, we practice it again next lesson. It usually takes 1 or 2 semesters for them to actually get their mouths around those sounds. The TH sound, you know, could take them years to learn. So it's just something that has to be practiced. But one day, one student gets it. Oh, God. My heart soars like the eagle. That is just so amazing when they finally get it. So I take that little student and I put him up on the chair. And I get all his classmates to clap and applaud. And I see this little student. He grows 1 foot in front of my face. His face lights up like a Christmas tree. And he will never forget that moment for the rest of his life. That day, he stood in the English classroom as the king of the castle with all his classmates cheering. That day, I made a difference. And I realized as I was teaching in China that that's what made me making a difference. And that is what I called my second book. I called my second book MAD, Making a Difference, because that is what my life is all about. I hope my students will remember me. I hope one day they will talk to their children about me. I hope that they will say, one day I had a great English teacher who made me feel special. And that's what happens in my classroom every lesson. The first thing I say to my students when they come into my class is, I missed you, and I give them a hug. Of course, the time comes when boys don't want to get a hug. So, you know, we have this fight, you know, I try and hug them and they try to run away, and they think that's fun. The last thing I tell the students before they leave is, you were very good today. You studied very hard. I love you. They are the last words they hear from me until I see them the next week. And those moments are very, very special to me because I know I make a difference, because in the Chinese school that would never happen. Very sad. The Chinese teachers, they have 50 students in each class. They cannot give the students individual attention. Now, I have been told that I'm not supposed to talk for very long, but I really do want to share something with you before I finish. In my holidays, I travel and I teach English as a volunteer in Asian countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, India, Nepal, and Tibet. And that's what a lot of my trips are, to travel to different places teaching as a volunteer. And I love doing that because it makes a difference to the children who live in the orphanage, and it's usually the only way that they can get some English education. One orphanage which is close to my heart is an orphanage in Nepal, at Kathmandu, which is run by the Bethlehem Kathmandu Church. I went there to teach English as a volunteer 4 years ago, and how that happened was I was flying from Brisbane to Singapore, and on the plane I was sitting next to a young man, and I was talking to him, because I talk to everybody. And he told me that he was from Kathmandu. I said, I would love to go to Kathmandu and teach English as a volunteer. So he said, I have a friend who is a Christian, and he's a member of a church, and the church runs an orphanage. So give me your details, and I will put you in contact with my friend. A few days later, I got an email from Mahadev. He was then a law student at the university, and we arranged many emails back and forth for me to come to Kathmandu to teach English as a volunteer. But I had already organized to go to Lhasa in Tibet to teach as a volunteer. And that was my summer holiday, so I arranged to teach in Lhasa for 3 weeks. And then I looked at the map and I thought, okay, there's Lhasa, there's Kathmandu. I mean, it's only a very short distance between the two. I thought it would be easy just to get a car and drive across the roof of the world. I mean, what's so hard about that? Well, the reality is a little different, as you can imagine. But I did just that. When I finished teaching in Lhasa, I hired a 4-wheel drive and a chauffeur and a tour guide. Because you've got to have a tour guide, because you can't just wander around Tibet by yourself. You know, that just can't happen. So we drove across the roof of the world. The most fantastic road trip I have ever made. It was like driving across the moon. The landscape is very similar to the landscape of the moon, which I have seen on TV and on pictures. No trees, absolutely no trees. And there is a road across the roof of the world, but at that time there was a lot of road work, so we drove off the beaten track. We drove on the rugged terrain most of the way. My head was hitting against the roof of the four-wheel drive all the time because the car was bouncing up and down, and the more the car bounced up and down, the more excited I got, so it was just wonderful. As we were driving past Mount Everest, I thought, well, you know, I'll just stop and have a look at Mount Everest. I'll just go to the base camp, 5,200 meters above sea level. And that was another wonderful experience. Mount Everest, by the way, is named after an English map maker, which I have no idea why. But in Tibetan, Mount Everest is called Chomolungma. And when you go across to Nepal, it is called Sakamata. So both Sakamata and Chomolungma means Mother Goddess of the Earth. So Mount Everest Base Camp in winter, there's nothing there, only the post office, which is built of wood. In the months of May, a village of tent hotels just shoot up. And I'm very happy to say that only Tibetan people can get a license to manage a hotel at Mount Everest. So we got to the hotel. I had booked a room. No, not a room. I booked a bed because you can't book a room because the tent is just one huge tent and everybody sleeps together in the tent. So I shared the tent with 9 men, which were unknown to me, so you can understand I did not take my clothes off to go to bed. So I just took my boots off and my coat and I went to bed, and I was tucked in by this lovely, lovely Tibetan man who was the manager of the hotel. Oh, he was just delightful. And he put one blanket on me, 2, 3, and 4, and eventually I had so many blankets on me I couldn't move. It's like, oh, help me. In the middle of the night, I woke up and I couldn't breathe. And I had a splitting headache. And I was like, I thought I was going to die, really. I fumbled in my backpack next to my bed to find a note and a pen. And I wrote a note to my daughter. That is how scared I was. My tour guide woke up and she realized what was happening, so she calmed me down and she said, okay, just relax, take a short breath. And eventually, after half an hour, she got me to calm down and I was okay. The next morning, I thanked her. I said, thank you so much for being so helpful, and you were so calm. And she said, no, she said, I was so scared. I thought you were going to die. So that's very, very, sorry, getting to it. So this was drive across the roof of the world. So this is a picture of me with a Tibetan family, and the other picture is of my lovely host at the hotel. And when I was at Mount Everest, I was able to put my finger on top of the world. And when you go there, you borrow a big Chinese army coat, because it's cold. So usually the clothes you bring, it's not warm enough. So that's me in a big army coat. So from Mount Everest, I drove to the border between Tibet and Nepal, and got into another four-wheel drive and drove to Kathmandu. And I taught English in the church for 4 weeks. So during the day, I taught in the church, and in the mornings and in the evenings, I taught English in the orphanage. And it was an amazing experience because I taught women that couldn't read and write in their own language because they had not gone to school, they had no education, and they were sitting on the floor in the church trying to learn English. That was just so amazing to me. It was a really, really wonderful experience. The church had a feeding program for the poor children in the neighborhood, and they would come to the church in the afternoon to eat a bowl of rice and dal. And I saw these gorgeous kids come getting their food, and they sat down on the ground to eat their food with their fingers, and I was shocked. Not that they were eating with their fingers, because that is normal in Nepal, but because they were so dirty. So I asked the pastor of the church if I could be allowed to buy some soap and some towels, and perhaps we could teach the children to wash their hands before they ate. And that idea developed into Miss Tove's hygiene program. And I bought soap and towels and toothbrushes and toothpaste, and we taught the children to wash their hands before they ate and pray. They learned how to pray too, because it was a Christian church, of course. And then after they ate their food, they were taught to brush their teeth. And I'm so happy to say that that program has been going for 4 years. And just before I left Guangzhou, I sent a huge box of hundreds of toothbrushes and toothpaste and soap and towels to the church and the orphanage in Kathmandu. And I'm really, really proud of that project. When I was in Kathmandu, I heard horror stories about how little girls were treated if they were unfortunate to be in a poor family. Very often in Nepal, children, little girls especially, don't get to go to school, and very often they are married off at an early age, 12 or 13 years of age, to an older man who uses her just for childbearing and also for hard labor. Even worse, a lot of little Nepalese girls are smuggled across the border to India, and they are forced to live in a brothel as a prostitute. And it absolutely broke my heart. And I said to the pastor of the church that I wanted to help. So I set up a program, a sponsoring program, where I could sponsor little girls in Nepal. It's $20 a month, less than $5 a week, to help a little girl not to end up in a horrid situation. There's no administration cost. I carry administration cost, and at this stage I'm sponsoring 13 children in Nepal. And I'm not sure if you can guess why it is 13 children. Because my parents had 13 children, which they were not able to educate. So I want to finish my parents' job, basically. But my goal is to sponsor 100 little girls in Nepal. And because I'm now standing here and I have a platform, I am asking for your help. You will find on your sheet, that there's a feedback form. And if you're interested in knowing more about how you help sponsor a girl, you can just circle yes, and I'll send you the information. You can actually choose the child yourself from a picture, just like the picture on the. You can develop a personal relationship with her, you can write her letters, you can even go and visit the child. And the reason why I want people to pick the child themselves is because when you look into the eyes of those children, I'm sure you will feel as I did. If you can help, you must. This little girl is the first girl that I sponsored. Her name is Rasmita. I went to her home and lived in a tiny cottage, the size of this stage, mother, father, and brother, one bed for the whole family to sleep in, cement floor, the roof was leaking when it was raining, and no plumbing, no indoor plumbing. So it was a very, very bad situation. This little girl was always sick. And I do know that the first month's sponsorship that I paid to that family, the mother used that money to take the little girl to the doctor. And that was the first time that she had money to get medical help for her children. So the picture is about Rasmita today, and I'm sure you can see that she looks very healthy today. Some people have told me that I'm successful, and I appreciate that, but to me, it's my life. It's what I do. It's normal. What is success anyway? Some people think success is fame, money, and power. But I have realized in China, success is not money, fame, or power. Success to me is making a difference. Success to me is waking up every morning and being so excited about what I do that I literally fly out the door to be in the classroom with my students. Success to me is seeing the confidence building in the students week by week when they come to my English class. Success to me is going to bed every night knowing that I did the very best I could. Success to me is that I can make a difference in children's lives every day. So I guess I'm successful. Just before I finish, I just want to tell you about the third book, which is GAP. And that book is really a how-to book. So if anyone are interested in knowing more about how to teach English as a second language in China or an Asian country, then I will be running workshops and we will be working with that book. Now, I just want to mention that you know that I sold off everything and went off to China. And I've stayed there for almost 11 years. But you don't have to do that to teach English as a second language and make a difference. There are many teaching opportunities in Asian countries. There is teaching as a volunteer in an orphanage. But also in China, in the months of July and August, there are thousands of English summer camps. Because workers in China don't get an annual holiday like in Australia. They really only get the national holidays. So parents don't know what to do with their children in the holidays, in the school holidays. So they send them to a lot of summer camps. And one very popular summer camp is English summer camp. And you can get a job teaching for a couple of weeks in an English summer camp. And you get paid for that. So if you have 3 weeks holiday, you can teach for 2 weeks and then travel around China for 1 week. So that's a very, very exciting adventure as well. I have done that many times and I've set up my own summer camp as well. To finish off, I would just like again to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I just appreciate you being here. If I have inspired you, I'm happy. If you buy my books, and if you do buy my books, you will help the children in Nepal because 20% of the profit of my book goes to sponsor more children in Nepal. So thank you so much, and I will hand you back to my friend Tony. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. I'll just this second toy microphone here and see if it will work for a while. Does this surprise you that this lady goes to bed at 2 o'clock every morning? In fact, I'm not even sure she sleeps at all. Just the most beautiful story. Now, just before we wrap up here, I'm going to offer to you to ask any questions, but to precede that, can I ask you to have a quick talk with someone beside you and work out what